Hello everyone. For today's video, we'll be looking at a few of the advanced modeling tools that Twinmotion has to offer to us. So talking about these advanced modeling tools, the ones at the bottom are the ones that we take into account as for the advanced tools that is therein. So for today, we'll be covering materials and the populate option. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. Now, talking about the populate option, I'll be able to see three other categories when under the populate option, that is foliage, paths, and urban. So, talking about the first one that is called foliage, this is something that will help me to create much more realistic outcomes for the render that I'm creating in. So, let's say, for example, we have the grass texture over here, right? It's an image or a texture of the grass that we have added in over here, but it still looks like an image. What if I can make it much more realistic? So that's where the populate option comes in. I can just choose to paint over this area. And for that, I'll have to select what kind of grass or the flowers for that matter I want in this particular location. So let's say this one. Now, apart from the regular technique that we apply of dragging and dropping it on this location wherever I want it to appear, I'll drag and drop it into this option over here that's within the paint. So once that is done, I can now click onto this area where I want the grass and it will be scattered for me. Basically, I can also select what kind of diameter do I want to cover which areas depending upon the size of the area that I'm covering in as well. So this is one aspect where I have added in grass. In a similar way, I can also, let's say there's a forest or scene that I'm working on has a lot of trees. So the same thing can be done with respect to trees as well. So let's say I have this tree I want. So rather than just placing it over here in this location, I can drop it here. And in a similar way as to how I place the grass, I can directly just scatter in the trees as well. So it's taking up a bit more space as compared to what grass took in over here, but that's something that I can arrange in with the help of by setting up the diameter for the area that will be covered in as well. So this is one thing that will help me create more realism and add more feel to the rendered scene that I'm working on. The second option that I have is the paths. Now, this is something that will help us create movement in the model that we are working on. So there are plenty of options to work around with characters, bicycles, vehicles, and a custom path if we want to create in as well. So let's say I want to create a vehicular path. I can just select the vehicular option, and all I have to do is just trace the area or trace the path along with which I want the vehicles to be moving in. So let's say that this is the area where I want, this is the path where I want the vehicles to be moving. And as soon as I do that, you can see the vehicles have started, like movement of vehicles have started coming up as soon as I did that. So I can create much more changes and make changes to the properties with respect to this path that I've created. I can increase the lane count as per my wish. I can also select if I want a two-way direction. So I don't have to create another path separately for the cars that are coming in the opposite direction. I can directly just check this two-way direction option that I have over here. Apart from that, I can select how many number of cars would be coming in, or that is the density, what is the speed with which these cars are moving, as well as I can reverse the movement of these cars as well. So these are certain aspects that are helping me create more movement in the project, and also certain things that are reducing the rework once I'm creating parts for any kinds of vehicles for that matter. In a very similar way, which we have created the vehicles, I can create character paths as well. So let's say I want people movement over here in this location. In the same way that I've created the vehicular path, I can create that as well. Now I can select from the type of characters I want, what is the kind of clothing that they have, and what is the width of the path they're moving in, and the density of people who are moving on this particular path. So these are certain options that I can play around with. And similar to the vehicle path, I can select if I want to reverse the direction on which people are moving. So yeah, these are pretty much similar to what we looked at within the vehicle paths as well. So same way we have bicycles and custom made, like if you want, you have specific elements for which you want to create paths, you can do that as well. So moving on to the final option, that is urban over here. What urban essentially enables me to do is that I can download the site uh, that I'm working on for a project on. I can download that site in this particular scenario. So what it will do is take the site data, it will download it as blocks. So let's say I take a very random option here. You can be specific with respect to the site that you have. I can select which area I want. So let's say I'll just select a very random area which comes up here. All I have to do is click on download and place, and it will download this particular map as well as the buildings as blocks, white blocks that will show up here. Yeah, so you can see this site has come up, which I had selected in over here, has come up in the form of blocks. Sorry, the buildings have come up in the form of blocks, as well as the other details such as the roads and everything have also been placed in the scene that I'm working on right now. So that's essentially what urban option in the popular section helps me to do. That is create more context to what I'm designing in. I'll just move on towards the materials. Now we have plenty of materials within Twinmotion as well. But what if I have certain materials that have been pre-decided for the site, and there are certain textures that I want to add of my own? So that is also something that can be done. All you have to do is click on this plus button over here, and a new material will be created for us at the same time. I can rename it. Let's say I give it a very standard name, that is test one here. And how I can like add in the texture for this particular material is by going into more details and adding a texture. So let's say I have a texture saved. I can just click on this open button. I have this style option selected. I can click on open, and this texture will be applied to this material. So this is how we can add in custom materials as well, and this will act exactly like any other material that is acting in or behaving in a Twinmotion environment. So that way we can work with plenty of materials and any number of materials. And also to mention, all the materials that are available, sorry, that you've put in or utilized during this rendering process will be available to us in this category under the material section. One additional aspect that I would want to mention as a bonus point would be that we can also add certain objects to user library. So there's a user library option over here. So let's say I have a particular element in this scenario. Let's say this gate is the one, and this is something that I know is utilized constantly for other projects that I'm working on as well. So I don't want to go back and do the rendering process again and again. So now this is a very simple element. It can be more complex than this. So for that matter, I don't want to be doing the rendering process again and again. So how can I save my time in that scenario is that I can select this gate and that in for that matter any element, and click on these three dots over here and have an option of add to user library. Now as soon as I do that, it will show up in this user library here. Of course, I have a few more gates that I added in as a part of this practice itself. So now when I am working on the same element on any other file, I can share this user library with that in that file and continue working without having to do all the rework again.